Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Leaders in Supply Chain Talent podcast. I'm your host, Shubh Fosdar, Head of Training and Development at Alcott Global. I'm excited to have Anjali Menon as our guest today. Anjali is an HR leader with over 15 years' experience with proven expertise in leading transformations, talent management, organization design and development, employee engagement and communication, diversity and inclusion, rewards, and HR business partnering across multiple countries. Currently, she's the regional head of Talent Center of Competence for Asia Pacific and Sub Saharan Africa for Nestle. She is leading a multicultural, semi virtual team delivering talent acquisition, recruitment marketing, employer branding, leadership and organization development, team effectiveness, coaching, mentoring, diversity and inclusion, and learning and capability building solutions. So, what do you not do, Anjali? So glad to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Shub, for this very kind introduction as well. That's all what my team does. Set the context.
Okay.
I'm just
So,
there to ensure that I'm facilitating and enabling them. Yeah.
yeah, spoken like a true leader. So, Anjali, look, I have to confess to you, when I was coming up with your introduction summary, I really struggled to see how can I make it very concise because you seem to have done so much within Nestle. So I think let's start from there. I think I would be very interested, and I'm sure the viewers would be very interested to also listen to your career story and the meteoric rise you've had within Nestle.
Thanks so much, Shub. So I think firstly, it's the first thing which I would like to say is it's a privilege to be part of a large organization and which has so many products and categories. We have 2,000 plus category brands that we have in Nestle globally. We are
Mm-hmm.
present in almost every country possible, 180 countries plus, and we have the whole value stream, if you can say, from farm to fork.
Mm-hmm.
We have products from right from before birth, maternal care, till people when they need critical care. So that sort of explains the breadth that Nestle offers to start with, and hence it gives every individual who is part of this company an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to explore and grow themselves in very diverse ways. From even does not matter which function you're working in, you're in human resources, you're in supply chain, you're in finance or marketing, etc. There's no end to how much you can learn and how much you can explore. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first context which sets in, and I think that's where my career journey starts. So this is not my first organization. In fact, I was with Infosys Technologies for about a year and a half, and
Mm-hmm.
then I had this opportunity coming up with Nestle, and everyone is fascinated with FMCG. You know, when you see products, you get excited. There's a certain degree of relatability you have. And that's when I joined Nestle. It's been 15 years plus. I have been a
Mm-hmm.
part of South Asia region in Nestle in various roles, given different opportunities. And again, as I said, there's no end to how much you can do and how much you can achieve if you have the willingness to explore and you have the ability to move on, because there are people who are willing to support you. There are leaders, there are mentors always there to reach out in the
Mm-hmm.
company. My last role in South Asia was leading employee communications, looking at people development
Mm-hmm.
and also leadership. Post which, I think I was keen to move out and explore more geographies, and I moved to Thailand, which is the headquarter for Indochina, which comprises of 4 countries again. And then 3 years back, I moved here in Malaysia, working with this exciting role of Asia Pacific and Sub-Saharan Africa. We
Mm-hmm.
integrated Sub-Saharan Africa into this portfolio last year onwards. So it's been a great learning. My team has people from about 10 nationalities. We are 25
Mm-hmm.
team members.
Wow.
60% of them are in KL and 40% are based in various countries, which again adds into the exposure you get and the cultural learning you earn by just being a part of this team. So that's a truly humbling experience as well.
Mm. Great. So you've had a lot of diverse experience in terms of geography, in terms of what you've handled as well. But there's one thing which comes out very distinctly in your experience, Anjali, and That's more about the change management and transformation at different stages of the life cycle of transformation. So, I would love to understand from you what your role was as the HR leader in enabling the transformation.
It's a very interesting question, Shub, because I think today we acknowledge that change is so dynamic and it's there everywhere, and we have to constantly look at it. But my first experience with change started something around 2009, 2010, when I
Mhm,
moved into a business partnering role, and we were in a stage of we had acquired a business and we were merging the business, and um, that was interesting because there are different cultural norms which different companies have, and working in that integration was like the first change management exposure, completely hands on.
mhm,
And post that, I was leading a global process change for HR, which India was a pilot. I was given this responsibility. And again, I say it's always thanks to the leadership who entrust you with those responsibilities,
mhm,
which was really about processes and measures and KPIs, etc., which was on the lean methodology, which was really very structured and organized change.
mhm.
And after that, there was a situation where we went through a very difficult time in India on the Maggie crisis, which was a change which came. It was not a change. I think it was a transformational situation which was entrusted by the situation that arose. And I
Mhm,
was, by the virtue of the role, I was dealing with it. And then I was into China again driving. So having done, so if I can put it very simply, I would say change and transformation is in two ways. It's like it is incremental or it's transformational.
mhm.
Incremental is what we keep on doing all the time in our jobs, and it can be planned and it can be, you improve day by day, which is great,
Yeah.
which is fantastic, you learn. Transformational is when it happens when you completely turn things upside down, and usually it's because of the external environment, and completely different scenarios are needed, completely different approaches are needed. And I think from my experience on a plan change was it's much easier
Of
because
course.
you have systems, you have
Some
structures, you
control.
have
Yeah.
processes. There, what you need to be careful about is sensing the resistance,
Yeah.
if you ask me. And that's my learning from these incremental changes, that please sense them principally and enable the team by providing them, because that's what Nestle did whenever we went through these plan changes, wherever I have led, rather was in Thailand or in
Mhm,
India as well. We provided a lot of support in terms of the design, the structures, the template, and then going around it. The problem is when you have a change which you never thought it will be thrown upon you suddenly, it just
mhm.
came up. And that's when the agility factor comes in, and that's what everybody's seeing for past 2 years.
Yeah.
The only way to move in a transformational change, and I think what we did in when we were in the situation during the Maggie crisis, or even now when COVID happened within my team since last year, was continuously say taking feedback from your stakeholders or your your consumers, your customers, or your employees, coming back, improving, again taking the feedback, coming back and improving, and telling them what you did with that feedback. So when there are changes where nobody knows the right way, it's better to reach out and understand and keep on improving and moving forward. So the only way to move in a transformational change is ensure you're moving forward and ensure you're improving. And who tells you about that is the people who are impacted by it, by your actions. So, and
Yeah.
that takes a lot of humility and agility both.
Yeah, absolutely. It's truly partnering because you
Yeah.
need to get the constant, immediate feedback from the people who are being impacted. We have some great questions already from the audience, but before that, I just want to continue in this vein of transformation because, with every transformation, there's bound to be uncertainty across the organization. And as you mentioned, there's resistance to it as well. So, how did that translate into the employee experience for Nestle, and what were some practices you put in place to make it as seamless as possible?
Okay. I think in terms of the employee experience, when we talk about resistance, so then the complementary to it is the buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
How are you looking at the buy-in? So when you have a change, and especially when, again, I'm coming on the transformational piece, it's really important to keep people inspired. And
Mm-hmm.
that is where I believe communication is the most important thing. And communication across the leadership, from the top management, really defining. the purpose of it and why we are doing it, believing in yourself. Because I think what happened during such in saying that we know what we are doing right, we stand for the right, our values are in the right way. Respect.
Mm-hmm.
Nestle's value is we are rooted in respect, is what we say. So
Mm-hmm.
truly showing that respect for our employees was very important and communicating it continuously. So communication is not just about calling a town hall and speaking to people. It was about, okay, we're speaking to you. We heard what you said, and now we have made changes and coming back and demonstrating that in actions. I think that worked really well because people felt they are being heard and they are important. The other thing which was important was also from a perspective of um, enabling them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have to create leaders across the level. So you have, as I said, we are a full value stream. We have warehouses, we have factories, we have distribution centers, we have field force, people who don't even have a desk. So how are you ensuring that everybody feels they are being fairly valued?
Mm-hmm.
And then creating those kind of touch points and those kind of personal connects is was very important. So identifying them and providing them with enabling tools for that movement, plus also showing them what's in it for them in terms of career. So when such situation came, what we did not do is stop our talent initiatives, but what we did is accelerated these initiatives for
Mm-hmm.
developing young talent, for developing talent in the sales force, and saying that we are investing in you because we believe that this is a transitory phase and we will come out stronger. So
Mm-hmm.
please continue investing. The moment you stop investing in people's development, it seems as if there is something really going wrong and we don't believe in ourselves. So these are a few things I would
Absolutely.
share.
Absolutely. And look, along the same veins, we've got some questions from the audience as well, where somebody has said that Nestle has many long standing employees. What is their secret sauce to retaining people for so long? And I think you've touched upon some very
Yeah.
relevant pointers. Do you have anything else you want to add here?
It's just amazing. As I said, I joined my career with the IT services organization. The
Mhm.
average age in that organization was 26 years. And this opportunity came in Nestle and I joined Nestle and I was doing my induction was going on. So I was meeting senior leaders in the company in India. Most of them were there for 20 years, 25 years. I was like, what is wrong? What's going on here? And it was because from IT services, you see 5 years is long term, and you say
Yeah.
20 years, and you're like, oh my god, I am never going to be there. And now I'm 15 years plus by now in the company. So what you actually understand is, there is people believe in this company's foundations are really strong. We are very strong on our purpose and values, and
Mhm.
I keep on going back to it because at when you have those moments of truth in an organization, people always remember how you felt, how
Mhm.
you so that's one. The second thing is what's in it for people for long standing, because they have huge exposure. We encourage rotations in different roles. We encourage people to move across factories, sales branches, corporate offices, global offices, regional offices. Like I'm sitting in a regional office in Malaysia, but I
Mhm.
report to the corporate head of talent, and my stakeholders are sitting in 13 cluster in Asia Pacific. I mean, how when do you get this kind of exposure? So there's a great degree of exposure and learning which happens. So we are like a company within many companies, one company
Mhm.
which has many companies. So there's a huge thing. And the last and the most important thing is Nestle allows you to navigate yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody, so that's a part of inclusion, I would say. So if you decide that you want to have a career at a certain point, you want to take it a bit steady and you want to be a solid performer in this kind of portfolio that makes you happy, so be it. If you're
Mhm.
someone who wants to accelerate and wants to take the risk, the company is willing to give you those opportunity. I mean, I moved out of India when my second kid was just 10 months. He's just
Mhm.
born. I moved to Thailand, and within a year I moved to Malaysia, and there are many people like this, and company is fully supported. So we allow people to be what they are, and that's inclusion is true sense. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just a metric, but
Yeah.
it's real life stories of people who are living that inclusion day in, day out. I have another very interesting question from our viewers. So, employer branding is key. How is Nestle making sure they reach the young talent and make their brand as an FMCG leader look sexy?
Absolutely. So we have been doing a lot of, so youth is the future. There is no discussion about it. When you go to UN, everywhere, everybody's saying, unfortunately, when COVID happened, they are also the population which is significantly impacted,
Yeah.
which is difficult time. So what we did at Nestle, and especially in this region, and those of you who follow me on LinkedIn, if you don't, please do that. You'll see a lot of posts which is about Nesternship.
Mm-hmm.
We created this virtual internship program which is cutting across 13 cluster in Asia Pacific and Sub-Saharan Africa. We have currently about last year we had about 1200 plus. This year we have hired about 500 plus interns. They all connect to each other across the region. We are providing them upskilling opportunities. We are providing the exposure in the FMCG, and when they go back, they just don't go back with the experience. They go back with much more learning, because we also want to equip them with new skills, leadership capabilities. So that's a piece on youth. And this is not happening in this region. We are doing in Europe, we are doing in Latin America at a huge scale. We have big commitment there. How do we make ourselves look sexy? Because we want to move with the times, and that's what we are trying to do. So please follow me. And tomorrow we have sharing from young interns. You can register over there and listen to them. There's a team member of my Kareen who's hosting it. You will know what we are doing for youth, and would love to hear your feedback on my LinkedIn connect
All
as well.
right. So I can't see who asked this question, but I think that's a, great avenue for this user to go and see what all
Yeah.
Nestle is doing in action. I'm going to take just one more audience question before we move on. So, how is Nestle approaching coaching and mentoring programs? And those are within your portfolio directly, right?
Yeah. This is a very good question, and genuinely believe that how capable your leadership is and how your leadership is able to groom next generation is through coaching and mentoring. That's how, and it has to happen at every forum. So I would just start with coaching. Nestle started this whole huge focus on coaching somewhere around 2009, 2010, and we don't even we are not only focusing on executive coaching, but we have this concept of everyday coaching, and it's been cascaded down not only to our employees in the offices, but it is being cascaded down to even the factory shop floors. And when I was in India, I was the head of talent, and I was driving this across the region. I have visited every factory in India, and we have driven it. How do you translate coaching skills to even that level and make it simple? So that's one. Secondly, what we did is we also adopted the ICF competencies, because we want to be really clear that we would go with something which is credible, which makes sense at a global level. So our internal coaching programs are recognized by ICF. So we are growing the coaching network. We have a coaching and mentoring technology platform in Nestle, where people within the organization, once we do the training for them and they are being classified at a certain level of competency, and I myself am one of the assessor, they're allowed to register themselves for coaches on this platform. And other employees who have certain needs, they can go on the platform and search for their needs and select their coaches. So we are also trying to make it organic and more democratic, rather than always HR intervening there. So yes, making it from a concept to the skill, and now bringing it to a more democratic way through a platform is what we are doing. And we are also on mentoring, we are also specifically focusing on certain groups like youth. We are
Uh-huh.
focusing on women talent. We are focusing on grooming the senior leadership for the future. And yeah, these will be few on mentoring. We are doing focused ways of it, but coaching is being much more broad based, because we truly believe everybody needs to have coaching skills.
Oh, I'm completely with you there. I'm also an ICF certified coach, so I know what it
Wonderful.
brings in the person, and how transformational the coaching
Yeah.
journey can completely be. So, Anjali, I hear you talk a lot about your teams, and giving them a lot of credit as well. So, I'm going to move our conversation to the teams now. So, you had started creating hybrid teams even before the pandemic had hit. So to some people that was not a necessity then, and I'm sure that you would have been commended a lot when COVID-19 hit and you had already put these things in place. So I'm curious, how did you go about with the transition, and how did you put your teams at an advantage when the whole world needed to have that kind of arrangement?
Shub, it's very fascinating because I took up this role in 2018, and the first remit was we need to hire, because this is a new structure that has come out as a part of HR transformation in Nestle.
Mm-hmm.
And we, as you mentioned initially, our portfolio was so wide. One, the second, the different streams we are covering. The
Mm-hmm.
second part was we are covering 13 clusters in this region, and it was quite clear. And I genuinely believe that you need to bring whatever services you bring in a way that your stakeholder finds it useful.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing which came was building the team was we need team members who come from many different countries.
Yeah.
The second thing which came was you cannot, it's it might not be a great idea to bring everybody to Malaysia. So
Mm-hmm.
perhaps there's a core team needed, and there's a team which it will be useful to have them based in their respective countries. For example, China. China is really big for Nestle. We have about 40,000 plus employees there. I have a
Mm-hmm.
team member who's based in Beijing, and she was one of the first virtual hires we had. She was hired in May 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a story behind each of them and how we went about. And initially it was amazing because there was a team here, and there were two three and there was a I have a team member in India, one in Australia, one in Philippines, now in Africa as well. So
Mm-hmm.
the initial ones who were hired, it was funny because we used to have this team brainstorming, and they are on the call and we are writing on the whiteboard, and we used to just forget them. And then
Mm-hmm.
one of the team members who said, one moment of truth I think everybody has. And this person came back and said, I feel very disconnected because I was
Mm-hmm.
there in office, I used to speak to Fika, and she kind of was very upset about it, and it really touched me. And that's when we decided, if they don't feel included, that's not the way we will do those things. No
Yeah.
whiteboard happening. So every time we have a meeting, we used to take a photo, where we used to ask her laptop, take a photo. They were very small things, and we built it like that right from 2018, and it came as a learning. It was not that we were so brilliant that we know what to do. We learned because the
Mm-hmm.
people gave feedback. That's why my point comes, you need to listen to them. So when COVID happened last year, so our team was built in 2018. We started delivering and showing value, and we were doing absolutely great starting
Mm-hmm.
20. We had all plans laid out. So most of my team members are traveling to the clusters. Even I was traveling for at least 3 to 4 months in a year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then COVID happened. We're like, oh my God, we cannot travel. So how are we going to now say do learning interventions? How are we going to do, even photo shoots for our employee branding? My team members are going and doing them for the clusters. And we were totally stranded. So February is the month we said, okay, let's wipe out everything and brainstorm. How can we do things virtually? And then
Mm-hmm.
that's why I say it's very important to enable and empower team. And then one by one, people started raising hand. There's a team member who said, we can do a virtual photo shoot. How will you
Mm-hmm.
do it? So the person tried, and all credit to that individual. Then there was a
Mm-hmm.
team member who said, I will deliver virtual training. And it was, we are like 8 hours. How will you make people sit through it? And she split it into groups. She worked around it. So due credit to her. So this was the whole learning. Let it become organically. You encourage, you enable, and always ask this question, what do you need from me? And that's what I asked
Mm-hmm.
my team members. Okay, this is the idea. What do you need from me?
Yeah.
And it went on and on. I think in Feb or March, we had hardly 15 or 20 virtually facilitated e-learnings. Now we have 135 or 150 plus in within a
Wow.
year. And that's all that was done by the team. And that's the whole power of empowering and enabling and just saying that I'm there to support and believing in your team. I think that was important.
Yeah.
So what happened? Rest of the organization, they came back and asked how you guys operate. And by then we were so organic with hybrid working. We are like, it comes naturally to us. We do few things. We do a lot of team building. So one-on-one catch-ups are as important as group team
Yeah.
catch-ups. You cannot do superficial games and we all laugh together by having deeper relationship even with your virtual team members.
Mm.
And sometimes it might entail free flowing conversation which takes away a lot of your productive time, but
Mm.
believe me, that's a very important investment for the motivation of the individual. So I would never want to cut down a sensitive conversation for a like like a very tangible outcome. I think
Yeah.
sensitive conversations are very important to do because you lose that movement, you lose that trust, you do that relationship with the team, especially in the virtual environment.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing which you've mentioned a number of times is the feeling of inclusion and
Yeah.
belonging, and making everybody feel that they are part of the team, that they're still connected even though they are not physically
Yeah.
present with the rest of the team. So that's quite commendable. And Anjali, I'm now going to shift gears a bit to provide some value to our viewers for their careers. So um, from your perspective as an HR leader who's interacted with so many senior leaders as well, according to you, which skills, whether technical or soft skills, are most important for a professional to get into senior level leadership roles?
Okay. Firstly, I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the definite answer for which other skills because that's the first point. Openness.
Yeah,
You need to be open to understand things keep changing.
absolutely.
That's the first thing. So every time you go somewhere, please be open to leave behind your baggage and say, there's a different thing, there's a different
Mm-hmm.
context, and I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Leaders, if they want to survive in today's environment, or anybody, you need to be willing to say, I don't know, and I want to listen and understand and learn. This is what I bring on the table. I see what you bring, and let's move ahead. That's the openness piece. And along with that comes humility.
Mm-hmm.
This is Humility is very important because if you do not have humility, obviously you can never say that I don't know.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell my team members. You're a part of you're doing this role because you know more than me in this role.
Mm-hmm.
So any leader, if you want to grow, you want to maximize the outcomes of your team, you have to have openness and humility. The other factor is continuously being agile.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be extremely agile and be willing to um, shift gears even every quarter. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying every month, but every quarter minimum, you have to shift gear. You have to revisit what happened, especially since last year. What happened in the past 3 months? What will you do for the next 3 months? And of course, do not lose the long term vision because you need to keep yourself anchored, but be willing to shift gears, and how you are able to contextualize for your team and make sense for them is also important
Mm-hmm.
because they need to see progress
Yeah.
as well. So this whole about of agility is, for me, it's just about shifting gears continuously and contextualizing why you're shifting gears and what impact it will generate for yourself, your team, and even for the organization. That's the third piece. And the last part, which I would say, is resilience. I know
Mm-hmm.
everywhere everybody's talking about resilience, but uh, when to stop, step back, and take a break for yourself and your own team and
Mm-hmm.
allow people to do that is very important. I'm not
Yeah.
saying bouncing back, I'm really saying to take that break because
Yeah.
often people crash because they don't take the break.
Yeah. So it's interesting because resilience is something which is coming up quite a bit. A couple of weeks back, I spoke to Shonali Roy Chaudhary. I'm not sure if you know her
Yeah, I
from
know.
P&G, and she was also talking about resilience and how to build resilience, um, by taking on stretch assignments. What's your go-to way to ensure that there is resilience, especially in today's day and age, and when we are also seeing people going through a lot of mental health issues because of whatever the pandemic has given rise to.
See, I think I'll break it down into three parts, Shub. I will say that's at an organization, team, and an individual level on resilience because
Mm-hmm.
it's this huge discussion around it.
Mm-hmm.
At an organization level, I think as an organization promoting this concept of saying it's okay to be not okay. It's okay to be not okay and take a break and step back. We and the second thing saying we all are here to do our best. Sometimes we move forward, sometimes we have to take a step back for our own growth.
Mm-hmm.
As an organization, the other thing which I believe works really well, and this is from my learning and observation across, is focusing on people's strengths.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because in today's environment, nobody was ever perfect, but right now we know less and less as an individual.
Yeah.
So focusing on people's strengths and giving them that space to capitalize on their strengths helps them to not spend too much energy. Because
Mm.
I love this statement which said, time is finite, energy is not.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure people are energized? Because if they are energized, their resilience is going to be higher.
Yeah.
So
Or you.
strengths, yeah. So if you are using your strengths, you're not really fighting against something. It's like change, there is a resistance. It's really difficult to resist. It takes more energy to resist a change rather than go with it.
Mm,
The same thing applies. So focusing on people's strengths, allowing and creating an environment which says it's okay not to be okay, and letting people fail and take those risks and not
yeah.
penalizing them. What our organization needs to define, how much is how much risk is acceptable risk,
Yeah.
because this is where
Absolutely.
people get confused. So these things, as an organization, as a team, being there for each other, and
Yeah.
not having competitiveness within the team. We are there together so that all of us excel and raise each other, because your success is my success. And
Mm,
that's the point. How do you bring that into the team progress? How do you bring that into the performance management conversation, the tangible aspects? You can't
yeah.
say we believe this, but then when it comes to the tangible aspect, you show otherwise.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
constantly
There has to be
talking, yeah.
congruency.
Yeah, and in a team environment, like we have monthly, constantly talking that how we made each other successful,
Mm,
recognizing each other for that, and that being seen as a valued behavior, spoken to, put into place on henceforth. And as an individual, I, it's very important to ask for help when you need it. That's one single important thing.
absolutely. Look, and I resonate so much with your time and energy, coach. Time as finite, energy is not. Because I feel as you start growing in your career to higher level, it's not so much about time management as it is about energy management.
Yeah.
Because everybody has those 24 hours, but what they do out of it depends a lot on the energy they have. So, Anjali, I'm now going to introduce a question which was actually given to me by one of our regular listeners of the podcast. She reached out to me and she said she's very curious to learn from the leaders what is one thing, whether you change something, you stopped doing something, or you started something, which you would think contributed the most to move you into a leadership role. And for this question, I have to credit Sadaf. So, Sadaf, this question is for you. And so, Anjali, what was for you that one thing?
I think for me, that one thing is when I started looking at the work and the individuals differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very simple thing to say. So, and even for myself. So, when I'm working with people, I say, this is a project, this is a task, this is not you.
Mm-hmm.
So, you as an individual, I would not stigmatize you
Mm-hmm.
or glorify you when we move from one to other. And that helps me to curb my biases very strongly. So,
Wow.
willingness, and that has helped me to really see within my team. And even when, as I've been in Nestle for 15 years, I've seen many people going through career journeys. So, I've seen
Mm-hmm.
people who struggle usually in a role become like superstars in another role.
Yeah.
And that's what I think was very important to say. This person was doing ABC, didn't work out for this person. So, what's this now? Let's not carry that baggage. This is a new
Mm,
start. Let's start afresh. And suddenly you see if that's the individual strengths, the person is excelling. So don't stigmatize people. And because when you start doing that, carrying that baggage, you are not allowing people to grow. And when we are talking,
mm,
I'm a big support of growth mindset. And this is a big hindrance to growth mindset when you start carrying that baggage on and on. So past performance is important. I agree to that. But it should not be something which should be carried so strongly for the future potential aspect. So I think that was a big thing for me, and I apply that every time as much as I can. I'm not saying I'm 100% successful, but yeah. And for myself also, I give myself that relief. I tried it, I worked really hard, I learned this worked, this does not work, let me move on. So
yeah.
I don't bring myself into that whirlpool of failure and thinking and energy. Don't lose your energy.
Absolutely. Look, I just want to say this is a mic drop moment because this is what the basic gist is when people are saying, how do people in Nestle stay for so long? I mean, if the HR leader of an organization has that kind of a vision that, okay, if the person is not doing well in a particular role, it's not that there is something wrong with the person, it's that the role is not aligned with their strengths, and how can this person be superstar? This is just, I think, amazing way of looking at work and individuals. So kudos to that. And with that, I'm going to move to the closing comments. So this is a question which is tailored to our younger guests, people who are entering the workforce or have just recently entered the workforce. What is one piece of advice you would give to them to have an exciting career like yourself?
Um, I think all keep learning always and be very, very curious.
Mhm,
I think if you're very curious at times it can be very bugging for a lot of people around you, but that's okay.
mhm.
because because curiosity helps you explore different things, and sometimes, like, I'm very passionate about mental health and well-being at this point of
Mhm,
time. I'm an engineer, and then I started my career in HR with Comp and Ben. So,
mhm,
there's a big navigation of a comp and ben to coaching and now to mental health and well-being, where I'm trying to learn more around. It's like a 360-degree turn for me,
mhm.
from exerts to um, softer, completely psychological aspects, and I'm really keen on it. And that helps you to be a very well-rounded individual, not only professional. So be very curious, try to explore the world, try to understand sustainability. I'm very passionate about it. Might not be directly under my portfolio. Sometimes it is under my portfolio, but
Mhm.
that's what I'm saying. So be very curious and you will discover your passions and you will keep on moving on. And please keep moving. Don't stagnate. Curiosity and keep moving is very important.
Oh, love it. So, very simple mantra: be curious and keep on moving. With that note, we are going to close off today's conversation. Thank you so much for your time, Anjali. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please feel free to like us. And also, please do not forget to follow Anjali. She shares a lot of knowledge around what's happening within Nestle and what is happening in the HR community as well. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. Thank you so much again, Anjali.
Thank you, Shobha, and thanks to all the viewers here as well. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.